Welcome back, everybody. So the dialogue session will be moderated by the Cesar Macawaaba. He is from the Alicia Alonso. So Cesar, it's your turn. It's your floor. You can begin. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much. Hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Welcome to the dialogue session of day 4. Thank you for your time and thank you for being here. My name is Cesar Maekawa Abe, and I'm going to be your moderator today. I feel very honored and humbled to be part of this event, and I hope you're having a great time with us. Now I'm going to give the floor to Luis Llerena, who is the network board member. Teacher Luis,
Okay, thank you,
please.
Cesar. Thank you, Cesar. I'm very happy to see you here. And let's continue. Well, for me, it's being part of the International Dance Committee of ITI. It is a real pleasure and honor to present a dance artist who had the responsibility of writing the message of the International Dance Day in 2008. It is difficult for me to summarize in a few words a life dedicated to an art that began, like most of the outstanding dancers, from a very deep intrinsic motivation starting at the very early age. How can I summarize all those possible sacrifices and also good times, of course, that surely happened to consolidate an outstanding work both in interpretation and teaching? Now, I can only highlight some outstanding facts that made it worthy of international recognition. Johannesburg was the city where she grew up and was first exposed to dance. Soon it became a passion. After school, she studied at the Johannesburg Art Foundation from 1988 to 89. She has studied integrated contemporary dance teaching in Switzerland with the renowned teacher, independent artist Adam Benjamin from London. Gladys Aguilhas is the founder of the Aguilhas Theatre Works as a choreographer and dance practitioner and an independent performer, nominee, and winner of numerous contemporary choreography and dance awards in South Africa. Ex-senior dancer for the former Johannesburg Dance Theatre. She also worked with Pact Dance Company and performed with various other companies in South Africa. Aguilas, or Aguilas, I don't know how to say it correctly, but for me it sounds Aguilas, was the recipient of the Women's Day Award of El Dorado Park for the promotion of arts in the community involved with dance in education. She is co-founder of the Cliptown Arts Foundation. She teaches at various institutions and companies. She was involved in the Shuttle 99 dance education exchange program between the Nordic countries and South Africa. Aguilas is a proud member of the World Dance Alliance Europe and WUWA Women's Voice Arts Africa. She traveled, performed, and conducted integrated dance workshop in Switzerland, Holland, Sweden, and others. She won the first prize reception of the Department of Arts and Culture, Mosadi wa Konokono. Now, I would like to highlight the brilliance of her ideas based on her 2008 World Message. She perfectly defined the spirit of dance, starting from a non-definition of the dance spirit. She said, the spirit of dance has no color. Of course, it has all. The spirit of dance has no selected shape. Of color, has all shapes. The spirit of dance has no size. It has all the sizes. To immediately define it by telling that it embraces the power of unity, strength, and beauty found within us. This is a beautiful thought. And I was thinking that's what this network it's all about. Surely her intervention will be of great interest for all us. Thank you, Gladys, for your intervention. We are all waiting to hear you.
Thank you very much. I am very blessed. Greetings, everybody. I'm blessed and honored, and I also thank God for every opportunity that He grants us on this earth. But I want to teach you all something. You know, in South Africa, in the Zulu culture, in Africa, we talk about Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is about humanity. So it says like, I am because we are. So we start with your right hand first. Come, everybody. I am. I point to yourself. I am because we W, yeah, like this, we are. So I am because we are. And that is for me what has happened in my career, because my community knitted me together in becoming who I am. So I'm going to do the same as like what all the other speakers has done. I will talk a little bit about myself, and then we can show some snippets of the work that I want to talk about. My background, yes, it's from El Dorado Park. I was it's an it's a community, a small community in the south of Johannesburg, next to Soweto. So in my community, because in South Africa I'm classified as a colored because my heritage is mixed. I have mixed heritage. So our colored community, was in the apartheid era, was shoved one side. They were not accepted into society, even whether it was, yeah. Anyway, so it was just very sad because in our community there is always this. My community is very knitted together, but when we are working with others, El Dorado Park was always seen as a crime area, and so socially it was always like the place not to be, the place not to go, and this is like in it was always a hotspot of crime, and nobody wanted to go to El Dorado Park. But then when I was introduced to dance, my concept, my thinking about like what what I'm here in this country, there's always no-go places you could not go because of the color of your skin. And I cannot even say that I experienced so much of that because my mother and my grandparents, they lived it. We only had a taste of it. But still we still had the barriers. And with dance and learning about the art of dance, that broke away all kind of stereotypes for me, because then I learned ballet because I loved it so much. um, the teacher that I had, I mean, there's various teachers coming into our community, and those time it was called the Colored Community Center. So there was all these European teachers coming into Aldos and teaching us, and for them it was making money, but for me it was like running away from what is happening socially, because our community was always seen as crime orientated, and plus you have the whole political thing happening in our area. So in that's where I found my solace, was in dance, like how I was introduced. But later on, when I started you know when I started going into the into the institutions at Johannesburg Dance Foundation, and my mind even broadened even a little bit more, but still your entries, you always have, if you have to go into an institution, there was always a no-go entry. You were not allowed because you either did not have enough money, you were not allowed because you're a different race. So, and always there was always this thing about you can't do this. You can't do this. But for me, it was because I overcome certain things in my community. Um, I would always say to myself, I can do this. This is something I can do. Anyway, so when I encountered what's his name, Adam Benjamin, and in the community when we started Club on Arts Foundation, it was about my experience of not be able to enter. I was not allowed to enter certain areas, certain um, organizations, certain things I couldn't do. So when we started creating Club Town Arts Foundation in our community, it was all the artists that came together, and we started knitting together this organization where we actually started off with children. We just started teaching children, teaching children about self-confidence, about that they can do things, that there's much more than what is happening in our society. You can actually step out of it. So in this, with the Kliptown Arts Foundation, we created like a bridge between our community and the city of Johannesburg, because in the city of Johannesburg, lots of things were happening. There was Dance Umbrella, there was all these major things that was happening, but in the community, we were not allowed to. But because of my experience, and also because of my my involvement in Johannesburg Dance Foundation, that is where we started creating this bridge, so we could actually take our kids and they would be able to perform um, in dance festivals in Johannesburg. So what happened was it became like a bridge. So anyway, so within this, with Adam Benjamin, and he started opening up even more ideas for me on how I could actually become more accessible, not only for the children, but things happened within the elderly. So we started creating works for elderlies. We started creating work for street children. So basically, all the work that we started creating was all for the community and how we knit them together. And but later on, when I started breaking away from the organization and started working with women dancers, professional women dancers, and we started creating work on the professional stages, but also using myself as the bridge on pulling on young people towards what was happening in the cities. Um, in with Agulhas Theatre Works, what happened was that we did some international travel internationally, did some workshops internationally, but due to because of the type of company it was, an all-inclusive dance company where you have dancers with disabilities, dancers without disability, and it became like there was like this tug of war happening within when it comes to funding, because when it comes to social, when you apply for funding in our artistic realm, then it was always like, no, we do not fund your organization. And we would ask, what's the problem? And they would always say, no, you have to go to social development. And we go to social development, and they say, no, we do not fund this. You have to go to the art. So there was always this kind of a tug of war happening between myself and these organizations. But later on, we found ways on how we can actually uh, apply for funding. But this is we did some corporate stuff, and we worked with the rugby unions, and so we broadened our horizon going into the sports arena, and that is where we started working with the rugby lions, and we started creating training programs for them, and also this is how we got some funding in. To cut the thing short, I'm very much interested in collaboration with artists, whether it's visual artists or musicians. I'm very much interested in collaborating, even if it's a poet. So in the work that I do, this is where I've learned sign language from some of the students that came from Wits University, and we would use sign language as one of the communication. And in our organization, or in what I'm doing, is that it's not about, you know, sometimes we think about the body and doing movements and shapes, but unfortunately, for me, everything shifted, because when it started shifting, I started looking at how can we start looking at the human being, what that person is going through. How do we include everybody that is in society and touch things and situations and that is pertinent for individuals, that is pertinent for the community. So for me, the art became more like or the work became more like a voice for the ones that does not speak, a voice for the one that is hidden, a voice for the one that cannot see, a voice for the one that cannot hear. But how can we include all our fellow human beings into a space, into a theater, to enjoy the excellence of the art? So this is how, with inclusive and integrated dance, this is what has happened. That you do an excellent work, but you also go back into the community to show them and to interact with that space, starting from nothing, going into something, and then see how do they react to this. So I had, within my experience, I also had, and also with the training, I had like sort of more or less young people at the moment now that they have their own organizations through the training program that the company had. And also they are individual artists on their own. They are collaborating with others. When I met David, David Vumbata, the late David Vumbata that you'll see in the video, he was one of the one of the people that has taught me so much about how to work in a manner of not preconceived, with no preconceived ideas, but how do you explore things? How do we make mistakes? And how we understand each other and show the respect? Because that is the one thing that within the disability sector that I had to learn, is like that people, we did not show respect to each other. We did not show respect. We always sideline certain people, and that really was very it was close to my heart, because we as artists, we don't do that. Art don't do that. Art is very inclusive. Art is very embracing. It breaks certain things down. It pulls things down, but it also exposes certain things politically, socially. Um, so what else can I say? I think, you know, when I collaborated, the one gentleman that came in from the USA is Adam McKinney. He came from, he was funded by the US consulate and came to South Africa. And this project that we did together, we only did it in 1 week's time, which was very interesting, because he came and he only came to visit, and we were having rehearsals in the museum. And we sort of developed a relationship there, and we started doing this project called Pretending to Be Something Coming from Nothing. And it's a very site-specific one, where we take it to 3 different spaces in the city of Johannesburg, starting from our community, going to a building that was a heritage site. But at first, when I grew up, it was a cinema, and we used to go there as young children. But then it started breaking down. But also the politicians used to have their meetings there. And so later on, us until this day, there's nothing from that building because it just deteriorated. Um, so going from that site, and then we went to the museum, Museum Africa. Museum Africa was an Indian market, my heritage. So when I look at all the spaces, and this was unintentionally, the spaces that we've entered was actually spaces that from my heritage is my grandmother is Indian. So and so how funny it was, because then when we did the piece, we were in this Indian market. And when I asked my mother, that it's a big museum, and they used to sell lots of, like spices and Indian food, but now it is a museum. It has become a heritage place. So to go into that space, and my mom always used to say, she always used to go there and with her mother, because, and just finding out, like this piece was snippets of pulling out some of my heritage and some of where my mother and my heritage came from, which I did not really delve into, because my work was basically not only on how to include everybody, and I did not even think about myself. So, and then David came from Soweto. He went into a special needs school. He uses assistive devices. He used to use crutches, and he used to stay after school. So after finishing school, he was like a hidden treasure. He was just at home. Nobody knew about him. Nobody even knew that he was stuck in the back of the room. Nobody even took advantage of, like took every interest to involve him in anything. But when the British Council did the workshops with Adam Benjamin, and somehow his teacher got hold of him and actually pulled him out of that where he lived. I mean, he was already about 29 years old, and for part of his life he had done nothing. He was not exposed to anything. He was not included in anything. So when he got involved um, into the workshops later on, he became really a my good partner, and he taught me a lot about inclusivity. So this is the two people that I worked with. I think we should go into. I will show you the video. Okay, so could you please just show me some pictures, and then maybe we can do some questions.
As the sun was set, little pieces of light
was groot van respek. So julle gaan ons ook respek.
You've been wonderful. Thank you. You've been wonderful. I love you. I love you.
Okay, so is there anybody that maybe wants to ask me? I think I'm much more better when you ask me questions. when you ask me questions, I can answer for you.
Ms. Agalas,
Yes.
thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you so much for your words. And I really have to say that you inspire us. I mean, it's like really inspiring your work, your project, your passion, the way you get emotional is really remarkable. It's really praiseworthy. And I really believe that we need more Gladys Agalas in the world. And I think that it would be a world so much better. And well, does anybody have any question for Mr. Agalas? Oh, Luis Llerena, please.
Okay, Gladys, you know that the ITI and other worldwide organizations, of course, works to break barriers between people and between their own lives using arts and gives sense to their lives and also happiness. Why not? And I would like to, if you have in the role that dance can have in this sense, if you can tell us what's your opinion about this role that dance could have. And I think that you could, with only one example, for example, it will be enough. A small story that we can tell our students in the future that you had. Okay, that's my question. It's not a question, but it's almost something I would like to have from you.
Thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. I think for me was the fact that we were invited to dance for one of these government organizations. And so they sent us invitation and we went to this event. So it was myself and David, the gentleman with the crutches. So when we got there, they did not even have space for us to sit. And they just looked at us and they just said, come in. And so we said, but we're the guests. And they said, no, just sit there in the corner. So we said, okay. I said, Jen. So I took the company and we just sat down. We were 3 dancers. And so we were called on stage and then we were asked, and we placed the music on. David was standing, we were standing with his crutches, and everybody was still talk. And there was all this noise. But the minute he started moving, the minute he started just lifting his crutch, and the minute he started moving across the stage, the minute he lifted me, and the way that he expressed himself in a way that I just heard silence. There was like nothing. Everybody just stopped what they were doing and they were watching how David was performing. So so we just continued and continued. And when we were finished and there was no applause, so everybody just, and I said to them, okay, let's just bow and let's just leave because nobody's saying nothing. There's like no reaction. And so as we were going off the stage, we just hear everybody screaming and everybody just running to the stage. I was so surprised because nobody acknowledged him because when we came in, they treated him as like, who are you? Just go sit there in the corner. But then when he was performing, there was a completely different attitude towards him. And I was saying to myself, but why? Why do you have to do that? Why do we have to treat each other like that? Why is there no respect? Even if you are just coming in and you have to sit down, you don't even know who I am, but you're treating him like that. So that was like, but when he was dancing and performing and swifting around the floor and he was doing what he was doing, everybody was so astounded. And some of them were even saying to me, but he moves so quick and he's so fast. But when he walks, you couldn't walk fast. We actually had to wait for him because he took little small steps. So those were the things those are one of the things that for me was stood out, because he just showed who he is. Whether he was on stage, whether he was off stage, he was still the same. And the beauty of the art, the excellence of how he performed, even if he was just lifting his arm, that was the most exquisite thing. You could just sit there and watch him performing. So those were little things that happen on stage, and every time that is what happened. People will treat us differently afterwards, and for me, it's like, why? So those are one of the things that was really for me that was breaking. And then people would come and started talking to him, and they would go to him like as if he was the real celebrity. So those were things, but that was not what it was all about. It was all about the respect. You respect the person no matter who he is, no matter where you are, even if you're just sitting, by your smile, by your attention. That is the respect we need to show each other. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, of course, of course. Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lucia
I
Arena, for
have
the
a
question.
question.
Oh, Justin Billy, please.
Yeah, it's so good that the comment that you made about a dance is a voice for voiceless. I like that.
Okay.
Sorry, I have
Hey,
bad
Justin.
network. So my question is that how do you use dance as a way of contact and a way of changing people and a way of creating communications? How do you use dance to create all those space of interaction with people,
So
especially
in
those
my
people who are like politicians, those leaders, and all those things?
I invite them to do a class. I invite them to come and do a class, or I what I normally do, like now at the moment I'm an independent artist. I go and I do workshops. So when you invite me, I do team building. So I close your eyes, and then I allow you to move in the space, or I close your ears, or so I cut down some of your communication, or you're not allowed to speak in the class, and you can only speak with your body or your movement. So those are kind of things that I use, because so it's like all about your senses. So if you close your eyes, you need to listen intently. You can't look, because normally what we do is when somebody speaks, you look at the person. But then I just say, no, don't look, close your eyes and listen. So those are kind of things that or I bring one of my blind dancers with me, and then I allow my dancer to lead you as a seeing person. So those are little exercises that I do to break those kind of things. And then later on, when we do these kind of things, and when we come back and we sit down and we have a chat, then they would talk about the experience, how they experience it. So in the workshops, I play around with these kind of things about how do we cut off certain of your senses to make you more aware of. Sometimes when you're a hearing person, you don't really listen. When you're a seeing person, you see, but you really don't see anything. And when you're a talking person, you talk too much like me, you know. So there's various ways I use it in my workshops, and then like there's role play. I do some role plays, and then in this we create the work we do through improvisation. Um, I hope that is helpful, Justin.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
I also need to, there was one thing I need to tell you, this experience that happened at the airport. I had this lady that was working with me, and she was like my administrator, and we had Bernadine. Bernadine was one of our blind dancers. So we were walking in the airport at Zurich Airport, right? And so Bernadine, so we do orientation for all the dancers, whether you're blind, deaf, and said, okay, when we're in certain places, this is what you need to do. When you're blind and you are lost and you don't have your guide, then you just stand still and we'll find you. So what happened? We were in the airport, and um, Bernadine was holding the administrator. And so those two was talking, and they were walking along the street, along the passage in the airport. So as Andrea was talking, but she forgot Bernadine. Bernadine has got such a light touch, right? She forgot Bernadine at the back there. So Bernadine just stopped, and she was just walking, and she didn't realize that she was walking by herself. And she left Bernadine right on the other side. And when she turned around, I just heard this woman screaming. And I was like, what's going on? She says, Ma, I lost Bernadine. I said, how can you lose a blind person? And she said, she was here just now. So it was so funny because she did not, it was it was one of the funny things that happened in our encounters, because those are things, people would go like, but we just started laughing because it was so funny. Because at the end of the day, we also need to do these kind of things that happens. It's normal human reaction. But everybody, like, she was so freaked out. It was actually very funny because she was not used to working with Bernadine. But we were used to working with Bernadine, and we just started laughing and we giggled all along the way. So little things like that, which make something that is like for some other people scary, but for us it's just like laughing. And when we went back to go find Bernadine, she was standing there next by herself laughing because she knew exactly what was happening. So there's also some comedy that would happen um, in this interaction, and it always happens not on stage, but when we are socializing. So yeah, so those are like very interesting things.
Yeah.
But most of the thing is I have
Yeah,
learned,
that's very interesting.
yeah, and I have learned all my experiences. Um, I have learned it from all of the artists that I work with, all the dancers with disability. That is, they taught me to be patient. They taught me to listen. They taught me to 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 move into places that I was afraid of as a dancer. You know, when you just, like, you do ballet, right? You see everything. Everything is just here. You see everything. You look in the mirror. You just see lines and stuff like that. But the minute this dancer, Chris, he said to me the one day, he's a blind dancer, and he said to me, just close your eyes. And I said to him, what do you mean close your eyes? He says, no, close your eyes and you dance with your eyes closed. It was the most scariest thing that I've ever done. And he says to me, don't worry, I will hold you. And he did that. And in that, you find another understanding of like what he goes through in his. And then he would speak to me and says, move to the right, move to the. So he knows. So we work according to a clock, and then he says, move to the right, move to the left, or he tells me the numbers that I need to move. So I had to learn what I taught him. And he says, no, you don't know nothing, Gladys. Let me teach you. So in that way, it's not only my saying to them, this is how you do improv, but it's, he taught me so much more that I could actually, when we did a duet together, I could actually close my eyes and I could dance the duet with him. Um, so there's a lot of things that I have learned. So my experience has got nothing to do with me. My experience got to do with every artist that I've met, every dancer, every young girl that we did workshops. We did a workshop um, in Soweto, and so there was these young girls. They were all in wheelchairs, these tiny little girls, and they were. So we did an improv where you have to really move your body. And so this young girl pulled me on my dress and she says, ma'am. I said, yes. And she said, ma'am, can I ask you something? I said, yes, you may ask me. And then she said, can I get out of my wheelchair? And I looked at her and she says, I want to dance on the floor. And I said, for sure. And then she got out of the wheelchair and she did all her movements on the floor because we were all standing. And then I thought, okay. Then I gave an instruction, said, okay, everybody on the floor. So we all went onto the floor and we actually did all the whole improvisation on the floor where she was. And so it made the interaction so much more fruitful. And at the end of the day, we all learned something new. We all learn a different way of how can I still move, and with all of us in one accord, with all of us in one platform. And there was no segregation. And so at the end of the day, when I went, so when we left, I just heard the squeaky, squeaky wheelchair behind me. I said, ma'am, ma'am. And I turned around and there was a little girl. She said, Thank you so much, ma'am. I've never danced so nicely in my entire life. So those are little snippets of things that I treasure with my life because of things that she has taught me to also get rid of something. In that same class, I had to get rid of something, my pride. I'm standing up here and want to teach here. And when she asked me to go to the floor, so why couldn't I go to the floor as well? So in a way, it humbles one to go to, I don't say go to the level of steep, no, it's just how do I interact now in a different way that we know that we can equally see each other. We can equally experience this thing, but in a different way. Um, so that was also one of those experiences.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for this information. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay,
much for
and
your question. Oh, sorry.
no,
No,
that's fine.
okay. Thank you so much for your question. And does anybody have any question? Any more questions? Because I have one. May I?
Sure.
Okay. So beyond the physical ability, there is a psychological part that needs to believe that we can accomplish certain things, right? And being a dancer and a choreographer myself, sometimes I had my doubts about if I was able to do what the choreographer was asking me to do. So, was there any kind of psychological or mental work for the people with disabilities to believe in themselves and that they can achieve what they have to do?
Um, yes, there is. With all the dances, it was different. You know, like say for instance, with the deaf dancer, then there would be different experiences with her. Um, but what I normally do is I would work first before I bring them all together. I would work one-on-one sessions. So I find out first how the dancer is, what she likes, or even if we just have coffee. So you just start interacting first. You know, like we have coffee. And by having coffee or just take a walk together or asking what they like, um, what if you do this? What if you do it? If you don't like this, what if that? So I always ask her, what if, what if you, would you be interested in this? Just let me know. Let's go for a walk. And then I would invite them for myself, like we would do one-on-one. So what I normally, when I first started, I would do improvisation, like say, Caesar, I would take you and we would do improvisation together. We have a session, a 1 hour session, just me and you. And then next time I will take Justin, and then me and Justin will do improvisation together without any of the others. Without any of the others, because sometimes they would, some of the dancers would feel quite inferior. They have to do this thing in front of others. So then I have to build the trust and relationship between the two of us first. And then when there's the two of us first, then I bring a third person in, and then we do. But then at first, the most important thing is what I've learned is that touching at the first thing, don't no touching, no, because it's your space. So we just maybe go to face each other like face like this, just close encounters and then move away, and then close encounters and way. So I find out different ways, but it's different with each person with disability. There's other dancers. Whoa, on the straight go woof, they just want to touch your hand and they want to turn you and they want to do everything. And I said, no, 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 not like that. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. And because of not understanding, and maybe they probably see in the class we've touched each other and everything, and we move together. And so, but first of all, first of all is like I do interaction one-on-one first, then bring one in first, then the other one, then I would ask also questions in terms of what do they feel comfortable with. But those are the questions that I ask individually. What is their challenges? What okay, so Benjamin, you're in a wheelchair. Okay, tell me, can I touch your wheelchair? Can I touch your legs? Can I touch? So I ask all these personal questions. Can I step into your space? Can I sit on you? In the wheel, can I sit on you? Because sometimes we do contact improvisation. So those are the things that I first do before I do not bring into the class almost straight away, contact, or I first do one-on-one. I first check out who is there. I first scan the class. I scan the people. That is what I do. So in the company, that is what I do. But when I do workshops first, if you invite me or anybody invite me, I first ask that the person that invites me, the participants, who are they? Tell me more about them. What is their personal, do they take medication? So I ask all those kind of things, that is quite personal. And then, sometimes when I go into the class, and when I see the class, I always go earlier than everybody else so that I can interact with people as they come in, and then say, hey, I'm Gladys, I will be a facilitator. And then I introduce myself to the people first, because I'm the one that's going to work with them, and so that they must feel comfortable with me. So that is what I do. But there is psychological things, and other times I need to stay away. And I see somebody is retreating, I will stay away until the person is comfortable with me or with the group. I can I just tell an example? I can tell an example of a young girl. She's got Down syndrome. So we were 80 children in the class, and she was the only one that, every time when I enter the class, she would run right to the back and stand right at the back so that I don't see her. So every morning when I walk into the class, I first, like my eyes scan through everybody, and I look for her. And then what I do is I don't greet nobody yet. And I go straight to her first. I greet her. Hello, Shane, how you doing? And then even if she doesn't reply, and I said, oh, you look beautiful today, actually. Oh, what happened? You're so bright, and man, you look beautiful. And then I move away, and then I go and greet everybody else, and I do my thing. I did that for like every day for a whole week. The last day of the workshop, when I walked into the class, she was standing right in front of my class. She took my bag and she said, hello, ma'am, how are you doing? She put my bag down. I thought I was going to faint, because the teachers told me that this young girl did not want to speak to anybody. So I needed to find a way, like, how do I do this? How do I interact? And then from this interaction, she opens up to all the others around her. So one needs to be very sensitive in a way of how do you interact, with people with disability, or young people that you work with, or if these are even people that, or young people that has gone through traumas, or young people that has gone through really major, heartache and stuff. So you need to find a way how, and that's why I say art is such a healing process. And sometimes the thing is, we invite, like I have, what I used to do in El Dorado Park in my community, I would invite the elderly to come and watch our pieces, to come and watch the shows. And at the end of the day, at the end of the show, I would invite the elders to come and speak to the young people about about their lives, about what they loved about their life, and how they love, what they've experienced, what happened in the apartheid here, what is the post-apartheid, what is affecting them now. So things like that, I bring the elderly in to converse with the young people, and this is how we break certain things. And then some people, it's quite different, and some elderly find it very hard to speak about it because of the trauma of before, that they could not enter these spaces, but now they can, and through arts, they are allowed to go into these spaces. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any question? Don't be shy. I have
Okay,
one.
okay.
um, I mean, do you think people is now more open to non-conventional kind of dances, or no?
Well, I think some people are, and I think some people are not. So it's all, I think, it's sometimes always people's preference. People prefer certain things, and people prefer that kind of thing, and they will tolerate certain things. So, yes, there is people that are open for it. There's people that embraces it. There's some people that even think, uh, why are these people on stage? they should not be on stage. You know, I even had those kind of interactions, but I just had to stand firm and said, you know what, then, if you don't want to be here, you're welcome to leave. But you see, all these people and all these dancers that I have here, they are just as much welcome. But if you're not want to be here, then you are welcome to leave. So people are open, but some people are not yet. I think people are aware of it. I've experienced even like during this time of COVID. The sad thing is what has happened even with artists with disabilities are even now even more in the background. They are not included again, you know. So, and that is the sad thing again, because when I started working with people with disability and young artists with disability, they were not allowed on the stage, you know, and people would say, no, there are different opinions about it. Now that people are much more aware of it, and you know, everything is open, and people are forced to incorporate in our country. People are forced to, you must have a certain amount of people with disability in your company, in your organizations, and or else you don't get funding. So what happened is that people run for that now. I'm gonna have 6 people with disability in my company, and that's where I'm gonna get funding. So people are doing those kind of things, and at the end of the day, what is that? It doesn't do anything for your company. It doesn't do anything for the person. It doesn't do anything for our society. So people do those kind of things that are just not. Um, I don't even have the words to say it, but people do those kind of things. And at the end of the day, after 5 years, they can't still show no evidence of what they've done. I brought in 5 people with disability, but there's no evidence. So those you can see evidently as people that just use this for funding. And then what happened to these artists? Whereas, you know, so now it's open now, but now theater productions, they say it is open for people with disability, but when people with disability come and audition, then they do not accept them, but they take a person that is not disabled and put him on the wheelchair. So what is just about that? Whereas there's people that are trained. I mean, I have trained artists that can play certain roles, that can be part in a production, but they're not given a chance. And so sometimes we have theater productions and theater people, or certain productions that does not pull them in. They're not open. They've not opened themselves and allow people, artists with disability, to access the space. But then they say they're open, you know. And then when you look at the production, they have somebody that can walk that actually sits in a wheelchair, where there is somebody that can actually do the part that is qualified. So sometimes I don't see what does that do, you know. Where's the inclusivity there? Where's the accessibility there? Where's the humanity in that?
Thank you so much. And do you have any future projects or with people with disabilities?
Currently, what I'm doing now is I've actually this is like sort of what I'm doing now at the moment. Not only working with people with disability, but now I'm working with the broader society. Is about how do we renew our mindsets in respecting each other for who we are. So I go into organizations and I teach like the methodology of inclusivity. And you know, people invite me and say to me, oh Gladys, you know, we want to bring in 1 or 2 artists with disability, but can you, there's certain things that we don't know. Can you come in and give us like kind of a you know, like sort of a module or some kind of a way of how do we do this? How is our place accessible? Is how do we treat each other? Because sometimes you just have to tweak you a little bit. You just have to open up your mindset, open up your heart, actually open up your heart for anybody that wants to come in. And sometimes so I do a lot of inclusive work where I go into organizations and we have conversations like this, where some people are against people coming in with disability and some people are not. So how do we just make people think differently? Then I do workshops, and I do those workshops where you close your eyes, put you in a wheelchair, let you run wheel yourself the whole day with a wheelchair or something like that. So I have projects like that. I also work with Vianney Dance Theatre at the moment, and I work with the dancers there. So basically my whole thing is like if I go into an organization that does not have dancers with disability, but the concept and the module in my mindset and in my heart will still be the same, to work inclusively with them as well, and to teach the methodology of just being open-minded, open heart. So whoever comes in through your door, that whether it's a person that is blind or deaf that wants to dance, that you are open for that person. So that is basically what I'm working on now at the moment. Yeah, and then I do some online stuff where people invite me and we do inclusive workshops. Like we do, I do mostly teachers workshops where, especially some of the teachers, they does not know how to work and how to integrate young people with disability in their classes. So then there's like sort of little modules that I teach for the organizations and the institutions. So those are the things that I'm currently working on.
Okay, thank you so much. And so with this last question, we end this. Oh,
Jill's hand is up.
Shen?
Yes. May I say something? Thank you. Gladys, I miss you. This is the first sentence I want to say to you. Really, I have no questions. I just have the remark. I want to say thank you very much to share all this beautiful story in this occasion. I'm really, really touched by what I heard and what I see from the video. I completely agree with the Cesar. He has made a very important remark. He said, this world needs more Gladys. It's true. This world needs more Gladys. I admire you. I admire your brave, your frankness, your generous to the people. And we need a person like you to make us open. So Gladys, thank you very, very much. And I really, really hope we are going to find some way to support your work, and ITI also need you. Thank you. This is a remark, no question. Thank you.
Thank you.